You have undoubtedly heard all of the crazy tenant horror stories. You've probably heard tenants, termites, and tenant, I don't know, toilets, I guess is the other T. All scary, scary things. But what if I told you Dion and myself, worst tenants, actually made us rich? Again, folks, this is not hyperbole. This did happen. Our worst tenants made us rich. We're going to do the game of ping pong because we have different stories with different themes. But as always, the guest goes first. Dion, you're up.
I love the idea of this topic because if it wasn't for my worst tenant, I'd still be working.
Yeah, amen. Ditto. Yes.
Yeah. My worst tenant was my first tenant. I wasn't a real landlord yet. I had moved from a house into an apartment and rented my house out to get around my bad debt to income ratio. And I thought, I'm brand new. I can't trust a stranger. So I'll rent to a friend because who can trust a stranger? And who wants a contract between friends? So no lease. So I had my friend in there. We're still friends.
Wow, you're still friends. Oh, I could not be
because
friends.
This was all my fault, not his.
Oh.
I set him, I teed him up perfectly for what he did.
Oh my goodness.
So the rent became late and he was a single parent like me. And I thought, okay, I understand. But when it became never, I went and talked to him at the house and he didn't live there. He had moved out and rented it to somebody else. And the place was kind of trashed. So the first thing he did that made me rich was he exposed my weaknesses.
Wow.
If it wasn't for him, I wouldn't have had the concept of how important screening, strength of your lease.
It's a business, not a hobby.
Correct. And if it wasn't for him, I never would have come to that conclusion because I was just testing the waters with real estate.
That's funny. This is so funny because we never know what we're talking about before we get on the call. But you said it was your first tenant and my worst tenant was our first one as well, right? It's kind of our story in a nutshell. I spend a year looking for real estate in the wrong market. So I'm already a year behind. We finally find Fresno and then we finally find Norris Drive and we are over the moon. I mean, because you got to imagine it's probably been 15 months of like daily discipline and Olivia hearing me say, we're going to do this, we're going to do this, we're going to do this. She's probably tired of hearing it. So we get a tenant. We celebrate. I remember going out to dinner the day we got the lease signed because we got the lease signed for the exact amount we wanted, 1095. We bought it for 107. We're going to cash flow 250 or 300 bucks a month after reserves and all of that. And I'm like, we are on our way. And little did we know, because again, we invest out of area, so it's not like we could drive by. Almost as soon as they move in, husband and wife, the wife leaves, never to be seen from again. We have no idea where she went. We think she went to New Mexico with family, but we don't know that for sure. They get divorced. He's a drunk or whatever, and he does not like that situation. So we never collect rent. We only had the deposit first month. Never collect another penny. We need to evict him. And then I remember walking in to what was our completely remodeled move-in condition into what's the living room, and there are wine bottles sticking out of the drywall. Like he had shoved wine bottles in my drywall, and just destroyed the place. And I remember walking out because I'd already suffered a massive defeat. Right, I'd already lost 80% of my wealth in the .com crash, and I'm here looking at another massive loss. Probably take everything I have left, and I'm broke. And I was ready to give up, and Olivia wasn't. Is the kind of the short story of the where we'll start with this. But bad things will happen, and sometimes they happen on the first property. So it was that was a very rough lesson. But now that I have 25 years experience, I can tell you the next tenant that moved in never missed a payment. I can tell you the property sold for $270,000 like 18 months later. So it's a happy ending, but boy, that first one, woo, that was a wake-up call.
Yeah. So I know one of your favorite statements is when somebody says you're very lucky.
Fucking hate that.
There is some luck involved in my story. And the luck is when I had that first bad tenant that I was underwater on that house because I wanted to quit. I thought, if this is how landlording is, I can't handle this.
I'm out.
My brother's super smart. He reached financial freedom and retired with rentals. He's just better than me. But since I was underwater, I had to educate myself. That's actually how I virtually met you. You were writing for Bigger Pockets, and I found some blogs online, and
Right.
I forget what you were talking about. It was either probably house hacking or small multifamily, but something hit the light bulb moment for me, and here we are.
Yeah,
15 years later.
Yeah, friends. You know, it's best friends. Yeah, so it's again, it's the other thing that when I think back to that story, because again, you guys have no idea. I was ready to give up. If Olivia would have paused for half a second, one rental at a time would not exist. The property would have been sold. I'd have suffered a $20,000 or $30,000 loss, which would have been everything I had, and I'd still be working.
So the luck in your story is you had a supportive spouse.
Yeah, she was. Yeah, I mean, you've met her. She's far smarter than I am. So I might be more disciplined and focused, but she is smarter. That's for sure.
Nice. So the second thing that my tenant taught me, this was the worst tenant I ever had. This is what he taught me. And I've had a couple of combat deployments. I've had a couple of kids. And I think people that have had those experiences understand how important sleep is. The only time I can't get sleep is when I don't have reserves. And it's because of what that first tenant taught me. Yeah. I almost don't care about the lost rent from when he lived there. It was the lost rent in the time it took for me to fix the place after those tenants were out. It was the cost of those repairs and not having the money and sitting there in the beginning going, okay, I'm going to spend probably $3,000 because there's a half a wall built and there's a door at the top of stairs that's definitely not to code. But I don't have the money to buy the materials. I don't have the money to hire a handyman. And not the lack of reserves in the beginning. I lost sleep probably for 6 months, more so than I haven't because of any other situation in my life. And because of that first tenant, I've had really strict, here's my reserves, here's my tracking equity, here's my unused credit. I never tracked any of that before that experience.
Yeah, again, it's kind of a similar story. So again, we get this property back. It's now another $15,000 remodel. All right. And we had the reserves, thankfully. But it's, this is, landlording is a rough business. It's a people business. I think in the beginning, I know in the beginning, I thought the answer lived in the Excel spreadsheet. I thought damn, this is embarrassing. I thought the Excel spreadsheet was the answer. And then just magically everything would work out the way the spreadsheet said. And, you're a landlord. That's just not how it works, right? You're introduced to reality. Not only over time can your worst tenants screw you, but you can have contractors and property managers and, all this other, Mother Nature, right, could come in and knock a branch down and damage a carport or a roof, which I've had happen. And yeah, having reserves is paramount because the thing that I've learned is you, meaning me and you never want to be a forced seller. I have sold plenty of properties, but I've always sold them from a position of strength. Like, hey, you don't want my price? I'll keep it. As opposed to, I got to get rid of this headache, this nastiness, or whatever it is. And you become the desperate seller. If you don't have reserves, you become a motivated seller. And guys like me will come take advantage of you.
Yeah. And I can tell when because I'm making offers on properties here in Texas, I can tell when it is somebody who wants to sell and somebody who, so the farm I got, they needed to sell. Obviously, that's why they took about a $60K haircut. Yeah. But I've got offers on this other one right now where we're negotiating back and forth and it's not going a lot. It's going back and forth and we're coming close to the meeting in the middle. We'll see how that goes. But I don't think they're a motivated seller. I think they're just looking for the right price. And I'm like, well, the right price works for me. We just got to get there together.
One step at a time, right?
Yep. The next thing that my worst tenant taught me, and this is from no direct input from him whatsoever, but I actually attribute almost all of my systems to that tenant. That tenant created my systems. Not only having criteria, but knowing why the criteria matters. And one example is he made a ton of money. He had a good job. He was a single parent, but he had good money, and he didn't care about his credit score. That's why he didn't care if the rent was late or if he ever paid it or if he got busted leasing a tenant out, place out to somebody else, because he could fall back on his job. So it's weird, but one of my criteria that I hardly ever look at is the income the person makes, because I know plenty of people making a ton of money that are late on every bill.
Amen.
Now, I do work verification as an opportunity to catch somebody in a lie, but I'm worried about credit score because that takes work and discipline to maintain, and no evictions ever. Right. Yep. This person probably has a few evictions on his record, and that would have saved me a lot. But because of him, I have a move-in checklist, a move-out checklist, an inspection, not a schedule, but like a plan with my handyman on what they check when they get there. I keep a maintenance log. I have like a communication template. Like when I'm talking to somebody, these are the things, and I have it written down because my memory is not good, and I would not remember what to bring up. But when I'm talking to a tenant, each tenant and each unit has a contact in my phone. So anytime I'm interacting with somebody at that property or one of those tenants, I have that contact open. And in the notes is everything that's ever been done at that property with a date and a time and which contractor did it. Did they have kids? Did they get married? Is there anything else that I can reference in that conversation that makes it seem like they're important to me? Because they are, but my memory's not good enough to make them feel like they're important. But those notes and that contact all come from that tenant showing me that if a tenant matters to you, you matter to the tenant. It's
funny. I kind of learned an important lesson from my first tenant, kind of on the opposite of that. What Olivia and I learned after kind of driving, because again, people, this is 2.5 hours away. So we go there, we walk through, we see the wine bottles. Olivia says, one more try. And I'm like, okay, fine, we'll do that. But the whole way home, we're talking about, did we do anything wrong? And the answer was no, right? We had a PM, they did a credit check, job history, they called references, they drove by their other residency. So even when you do everything right, it's a people business and shit happens, right? And, I've seen other stories, people are great for 5 years and then they get divorced or they get sick or they get addicted to drugs or they get a new boyfriend or girlfriend. And just life is messy. And, while it was very painful and frankly scary in the moment, I have come to realize that we did everything right. We did everything right. And, sometimes bad stuff happens. And for whatever reason, that is comforting, because it would have been a completely different answer if we had missed something or we just took the first warm body or something like that. But it was somewhat comforting to know that we did everything right and we still got bitten. And, fast forward over 25 years, that's really only happened to us twice. Right. It's just unfortunate that it was the very first tenant is one of those two stories. But it's oddly comforting looking back on it.
One of the things I learned with those reserves that I mentioned earlier was a bad tenant becomes an inconvenience, not a financial disaster.
Correct.
Right? So that's what's important there.
Well said.
And one of the last things and this is probably the thing that I've never thanked this friend enough for.
I can't believe you're still friends with him. That just tells me you're a better person than me, because I would hold a grudge forever.
There was probably a period of a year or two where there was zero communication. Okay. But after reflection and going back and actually starting to see some success because of what I learned from this person, through this person, I realized I had set it all up. And so there is blame on both sides, but not enough for me to hold a grudge.
To be clear, I would, but that's just me.
The analogy is holding on to anger is like drinking poison, hoping the other person gets sick.
I drink. But anyways, I would be so pissed.
So the thing I want to thank this guy for, and I probably should thank him for it, is that guy saved me from several future bad tenants.
True.
I would, if I had been stuck with the house and couldn't get rid of it, and he wasn't as bad as he was, I wouldn't have screening criteria. I wouldn't have add a tenant slow, get rid of them quick mentality. I wouldn't have what do you do if the tenant's going to ask if they can pay the rent late? Tell them they absolutely can. Here's how the late fees work, and I'm going to serve you eviction the day after the grace period as a favor to the tenant. Like, those things wouldn't exist if I didn't go through that with that guy. So I appreciate what I learned from him.
Yeah, Dion, again, probably the audience knows this by now, but I'll say it anyway. You are a better person than me, and that is totally okay with me. Dion, where can people find you?
They can find me right here on YouTube, Dion Talk Financial Freedom. And in school, my community is called Dion Talk Financial Freedom because it was available. What are the odds?
Nice.
And the last thing to say about this is our worst tenant was probably our biggest lesson. And I hope that people who have a bad tenant can look at it through that lens.
Yeah. Again, one of the things that we have, combined 40 years of experience is we have the ability to look back and take the lessons. Sometimes when you're in the moment, it's just, you can't zoom out. But yeah, again, our worst tenants made us the most money. And that is absolutely a true statement. Dion, you are amazing, man. Take care.
Ciao.